Good evening. So a lot of beginner cubers tend to be afraid to set up their cubes. Often they're afraid of breaking it or doing something wrong or just somehow ruining the cube. So in this video, I'm going to show you that it's actually really easy to set up a cube and honestly kind of hard to do it wrong. Let's get started. So cleaning the cube is probably the worst part, so you can actually skip this step if your cube isn't dirty and it doesn't have any lube in it. But if you do need to clean your cube, it's still pretty simple. You just disassemble the cube by turning one face 45 degrees and slightly twisting an edge piece and pulling on it. Don't use too much force, and if you can't get the piece out, you may need to loosen the screw under the center cap on that side of the cube. Once you have a piece out, the rest should come out easily, and you can wipe each piece down with a paper towel. I personally like to use a cotton swab to get in the tracks, and bunching up a paper towel into a point like this also works well. Also, don't forget to clean the centerpieces, especially under them. I forget to do that a lot. You don't need to get the cube perfectly clean, just as long as you don't see any dirt on it and the pieces don't feel too wet. Although I've personally found the pieces of some cubes feel wet even when they're not, so don't worry about it too much. Once the cube is clean, put it back together in a solved state. If you put it back together randomly, the cube might not be solvable and you'll have to twist one of the pieces or swap them around or something. So once you've got your cube back together, we can put some lube in it. You can either have lube in a dropper bottle or in a syringe. I personally prefer the bottles because it's super simple to apply them. You just pull the pieces of the cube apart like this and put a few drops in. Drop them closer to the inside of the cube if you want it faster, and closer to the outside if you want it slower. Then you just break the lube in by scrambling and solving a few times, and boom, you're done. For a syringe, it's less easy, but it's still really easy. You can take a piece out of the cube the way I showed earlier, and apply lube from the syringe onto that piece or in the area where the piece was. Again, if you want the cube faster, apply lube on the internal tracks of the cube, and if you want it slower, apply it closer to the outside of the pieces. I recommend starting with just a little bit of lube first, and then adding more if you feel like it needs it. Lube is for reducing friction between contact points as well as changing the feel of the cube, so try and figure out where the contact points are in your cube, and make sure you apply lube there too. Different lubes have different properties, but in general they all speed the cube up if you add a little, and then start slowing the cube down and making it feel gummy if you add a lot. There is no wrong way to do it aside from maybe just putting lube all over the outside of the cube, so just do whatever feels good to you. If you apply too much, you can just clean off a few of the pieces, and that should reduce the overall amount of lube in the cube. There are a lot of different kinds of lube, but my personal favorites are Galaxy and Martian, since they have a nice balance of speeding up the cube or slowing it down between them. However, they're a little expensive, so if you want, you can just get some Weight 5. Also, if you have a favorite lube setup or something like that, feel free to post it down in the comments so that beginners can look at them and see what people like. So lubing your core isn't exactly necessary, but a lot of cubes make spring noise when you first get them, which can be annoying, and it also makes your cube feel a little less smooth, and lubricating the core is how you fix that. The way I like to do it is to completely remove one of the screws and put lube under the spring, under the screw head, and under the washer if your cube has one. Just pretty much anywhere there's metal to metal or metal to plastic contact. Once you've done that, you can put the screw back in, and maybe try to get it even with the screw on the other side, but we can get that perfect later. Do that for all 6 sides of the cube and you're done. However, you might need to break the lube in a little bit before the spring noise fully goes away. You can use pretty much any silicone-based lube for this. Just make sure it's not water-based because, you know, water plus metal equals bad. However, silicone lubes turn an ugly gray or black color after a while, and they get all over the inside of your centerpieces. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's ugly, so there are lubes that are made specifically for use in the core that don't have these problems. My personal favorite is Vortex because it smells nice. So like you saw earlier, each side of the cube has a screw and a spring under the center caps. Pretty much all cubes allow you to adjust the screws, and I find that's enough to get the cube feeling good. But some cubes also allow you to adjust the strength of the springs without swapping them out for new ones. The screw controls how much the cube can flex, and the strength of the springs controls how easily the cube can flex within the range set by the screw. A cube that flexes too much can be difficult to control, and pieces might even pop out of the cube if you go really loose. However, a cube that's not flexible enough might be too slow, and it won't be able to corner cut. So you need to find a balance that you like when you're adjusting the screws. Different cubes like to be tighter or looser, but a good place to start is to see if the cube can corner cut 45 degrees. If it can't, try loosening the screws until it can. If it can corner cut 45 degrees, then maybe tighten it a little to make sure the cube is nice and stable. While you're adjusting the screws, make sure they're even. You can do that by pulling on two opposite edge pieces like this and making sure that you can pull them the same distance, and trying your best to make sure that that's consistent throughout the whole cube. If your cube has a spring adjustment system, adjust your screws so the corner cutting is good, and then use the spring adjustment to dial in the flexibility to your liking. Keep in mind that spring strength doesn't affect corner cutting, only the speed and flexibility of the cube. After that, do some solves and see how the cube feels. It might need a little more lube, maybe a different kind of lube, maybe the screws need adjusting, maybe the springs. So whatever you feel like the cube needs, go ahead and dial that in to perfection. And don't worry too much about messing things up, since whatever you do at this point is pretty easy to fix. After that, you're done. Your cube should be feeling perfect now. If it isn't, feel free to leave a comment on this video and I or someone else will be glad to help you out. And the RCubers subreddit is also a great place to get help. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped. If it did, maybe leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you like the song you're hearing right now, I made it, so go check out my music channel. See ya! Good. That was fucking good.